bypassing is like saying, I see this big obstacle in the road, but I'm just going to go around it. I'm just going to pretend like the elephant, the gorilla in the room doesn't exist. Greetings, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Down to Earth Mystery School. I'm Bevin Niemann-Cortez, your host for this channel. And today we're going to talk about bypassing. I don't know, I don't really want to talk about bypassing. It's kind of an uncomfortable topic. Maybe I should just go binge watch my favorite TV show. Let's go. Come on, let's do it.
Recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Stick with me here. We're going to talk about 3 different ways that human beings bypass those things that are really difficult for us, those parts of our shadow self, the work with our inner child, looking at what's happening in greater society. Let's talk about 3 ways that this can show up in human beings. And if you've done any of these things, and I've done all of these things, it's okay. We're just human. We're souls in a physical vessel. We're here to learn lessons. And bypassing is one of those spiritual lessons. So first we start with the mental and the psychological, right? This could look like good vibes only. Think good thoughts. A lot of the law of attraction stuff that we see out there, which is if you could just think in your mind and believe that you deserve $1 million, boom, that's going to show up in your bank account, lickety split. And we know that's not true, because if it were true, every low income earner on the planet who's never ever thought about having more money and more resources would suddenly have everything that they need. So we realize this mental and psychological bypassing, where we're ignoring the fact that we're not just individuals, we are also a part of a collective, and we are subject to, in many ways, decisions and the free will of other people, which may or may not work for us. And so in order to live and survive and try to do the best you can in a society that isn't always ideal, especially for sensitive people or more spiritually perceptive people, sometimes we go to positive thoughts only. Anytime a negative thought or emotion comes up, we're like, no, I'm going to stuff it down. I'm going to think positive. I'm going to look at the silver lining. Sometimes there's a silver lining, sometimes there isn't. And I'm sure in your life and in my life, I've been through some shit that did not have a silver lining. Maybe it was years after that I could see that there was some kind of reason I went through it, but mostly it just sucked. And so when we try to bypass the fact that it sucks, and we try to make it like, ooh, airy-fairy, it's all wonderful, we can just pray or meditate about this and everything's going to change, then we're doing mental and psychological bypassing. Emotional bypassing is the most common, okay? Because we're not familiar with our emotions, we're not comfortable with our emotions. We see what happens when emotions go off the rails and people get hurt and bad things happen in your family, in a community, or on a larger stage. This is where we're told we need to embrace stoicism. Right? And we just need to have a stiff upper lip, and we need to suck it up and deal with it and just push that down. And we're weak if we show emotions, and we need to shut down our heart, and that way we can never get hurt again. And man, I did that for a lot of years, and the emotional bypassing, the repression of my feelings. And I had a lot of feelings of anger, and I had a lot of feelings of resentment. I had feelings of despair about what I saw in the world, even as a young empath. I repressed all of this, and my physical body actually has symptoms, I believe, of all of this emotional repression. It's now, in my early 50s that I'm finally going, you know what, it's okay for me to be angry, and it's okay for me to be sad. It's okay for me to feel resentment or jealousy or any of the things we've been told are negative emotions. You're only allowed to smile and be happy and be positive all the time, but we don't feel that way. And the world isn't that way. When we're bypassing something, we're trying to take this shortcut so we don't have to sit in the traffic jam. We don't have to think about ourselves. We don't have to look at ourselves. We don't have to own our stuff. That's emotional bypassing. When we tell other people, oh, it's okay, don't cry, we're encouraging that repression. It sounds lovely, but it's not helpful. It's better to ask them, may I put my arm around you, and just let them lose it. Be a safe person and find those people in your life where you can do that as well, because we are human. Our brains are wired to have emotions. Our bodies are wired to be reactive, and there's a lot to be reactive about right now. And the third one is spiritual bypassing. And I see this a lot. I've been a spiritual leader working in this field for about 11 years now. I've had the honor, the privilege to be in a number of different groups. I've hosted summits. I've interviewed hundreds of different spiritual leaders. And I see in some of the teachings and some of the communities that there's a lot of spiritual bypassing going on. And what does that mean? It means that there is a lot of focus on the transcendence. Transcendence is beautiful. We are able to do that. We should do that. Sometimes we need to do that in order to ground ourselves, in order to really come back to whole. If our atoms are scattered all over the universe, we need to pull back. We need to do that, and we need to get centered, and we need to tap in to that higher consciousness, whatever you call that. However, it looks like, things like, if I just do enough yoga every day, then I will become enlightened. Yoga is beautiful. It's strenuous. There's many kinds of yoga, not just hatha yoga. And most of yoga is not about the physical body, or it's about a mind, body, spirit connection, which doesn't mean that we bypass anything. We're not doing something to be hot. We're not doing something to have the latest gear. We're not doing something to have the most beautiful crystal that we show on social media. This is not spirituality. It's performative. Real spiritual journeys include the shadow. It includes going through the muck. It includes looking at the things about yourself that you don't like. It includes having realizations about people in your life who you thought were one way, but now you realize were another. It's painful sometimes. And it doesn't mean everything about the spiritual journey has to be painful. It can be glorious. It can be joyous. We can go into ecstatic dance. We can let go. We can connect with others. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. But praying or meditating and then expecting the world to change without actually taking action in this earthly realm is spiritual bypassing. Okay, we must do things. We must vote. We must volunteer. We must donate if we can. We must do these things to change legislation so that more people have freedom, more people have rights, more people have resources, more people have healthcare, more people have clean water. You get my drift. So when we're bypassing on a mental level, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, or any other way that we're bypassing, and we're not wanting to get our feet wet, we're not wanting to get our hands dirty, because it doesn't feel good. And I just want to be high vibes only. We've all probably done this. Sometimes it's a survival tactic. Sometimes if you're in a situation that is so bad, so horrific, you might disassociate for a while in order to make it through, in order to not go crazy in those moments. You might have to. But in the long term, being in a state of kind of continuous bypassing, doing performative spirituality, holding and repressing your emotions down, only thinking good thoughts, never getting curious about, well, why is this strange or negative or challenging thought coming up for me? Why am I feeling so resentful or grouchy or jealous right now? If we're not getting curious about these things, then we're going to keep hitting that roadblock. It's like going down a gravel road and expecting it to be smooth. It's not going to be smooth. We're going to dip down into the potholes. We might even lose a tire. Who knows? But at the end of that, when you get to the smooth pavement, you appreciate where you've been. And you know that you've gone through it, and you know that you're resilient. This isn't me advocating for spirituality to be hard, but sometimes it is hard. And for us to bypass that as spiritual seekers, as spiritual leaders, is doing a disservice to our planet. We are here to address our shit, to learn, to grow, to evolve, and to take action on whatever small part of making the planet a better place that we can. And that means getting involved, getting messy, getting your hands dirty, having the difficult conversations, saying no when it's unpopular to do so. Bypassing does not include good vibes only, because life is not good vibes only. I hope you have more good vibes, though. That's the irony, is we are working towards that. We are working towards more peace, more stability. And of course, the more that we achieve that within, the more that it's going to start to be reflected in greater society. But we have to look at what's real. We have to look at what's in front of us. We have to be practical. This is the marriage of body and soul, of mind and spirit, of the light and the darkness. We all have darkness. And so if we act like we don't, we're bypassing. If we don't want to look at it, we're bypassing. If we pretend it's not there, we're bypassing. And if we deny it in others, we're not only bypassing ourselves, we're bypassing them. So it's really important, my friends, as you walk this journey, to keep this in mind. We do some of these things out of habit, and we do some of these things for self-protection. But really, the true strength is when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, when we allow ourselves to feel, we allow ourselves to say something that isn't like bright and sunshiny all the time. When we speak out, when we're angry, not act out, not hurt others, but speak out, write, podcast, whatever you want to do. Taking action instead of bypassing, going at the obstacle, asking it why it's there, asking what lesson you have to learn from that. Why is there a person always seems to be butting up against you? Why does there seem to be a limit on what money you can make? Hint, it's not only you, it's also the economic system you live in, right? And that's what I'm talking about. Because a lot of spiritual leaders will say, well, it's your responsibility and you create your entire world and you create everything. No, I don't. I co-create, right? I co-create with the universe. I co-create with my fellow human beings. I co-create with the planet. Therefore, I'm having a co-creative experience, not a solo experience, right? There are many people going through parallels of what I'm going through. I don't have a unique story. I do in the way it's constructed, I guess, but my story is other people's story. And it's just so important for us to be aware of bypassing, to be aware of it as a psychological, emotional, and spiritual glitch, tool, if you will, for us to procrastinate on getting into the things that we need to get into. And it's okay. There can be fear. There can be a desire to not have to feel all that stuff all over again. I get it. I turned myself off for several decades. But this is a really important topic. And you are going to bump into this over and over as you are seeking, as you're looking at your own life, as you're building your own spiritual practice. And you're going to bump into this as you go into spiritual communities, connect with groups. You're going to see examples of where people are just bypassing. They believe they're doing something because it feels good instead of that it is good. And there's a huge difference with those. So if you love this kind of esoteric content, this kind of content that blends earthly matters, social commentary with spiritual connection, I ask you to like and subscribe. It really helps me to get this message out to more people who are ready to hear it and ready to do their inner work. Thank you so much for being here. and I hope to see you soon.